Hello on the Rockers. On this episode, we chat with one of our favorite ladies. From soaps to screen to stage, she's done it all. Two-time Tony Award winner Christine Ebersole, with special guest co-host Broadway media guru Josh Ferri. With me, your favorite host with the sassy most. Raise a glass, let the drinks begin. It's On the Rocks.
Thank you for being
Boulevard.
Life is a banquet, and most poor suckers are starving to death.
I'd like to propose a toast.
This is On the Rocks with Alexander, where I drink with your favorite celebrities as we talk about fashion, entertainment, pop culture, reality TV, and, well, that's about it. So pop a cork, lean back, and raise a glass to On the Rocks.
fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Lord have mercy, buns and bows and pantyhose. On the Rocks podcast, a place where we're too glam to give a damn. I am so excited for today's show because we've already been chatting and it's already a show in progress. We are coming to you live from UBN Go Studios. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at On the Rocks On Air, and on Facebook, On the Rocks Radio Show. Send me an email. Book me for a pride, wedding, funeral, quinceañera, bris. I don't care. I'll show up. Info at OnTheRocksRadioShow.com. Also send us your comments, guest requests, and everything else. Info at OnTheRocksRadioShow.com. The show's presented by Straw Hut Media. You can watch and listen to our now over 330 episodes at OnTheRocksRadioShow.com. Can I say the website one more time? I think so. You can watch us on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV on the Outlet.tv app, Facebook Watch, streaming with Pride on SVTV, and on Channel 31 on the East Coast. All right, your homework, by the way, is to pick up Charles Busch's Leading Lady, a memoir of a most unusual boy. Those fans of Charles Busch, they sent it to me this morning. I had to get ready for the show, but I tore through a big portion of the book. I cannot wait to finish it. And Charles Busch will be coming on the show to discuss, so that's your homework. Go read it. Let's get the show on the road. Returning to On the Rocks, Josh Ferri worked in the Broadway community for 12 years before moving to California. He began his career as a press agent for musicals like Spring Awakening and Xanadu, as well as the Public Theater. He then joined the team at Broadway.com before launching editorial content for Broadway Box, where he served as an editor for 6+ years, creating the popular and viral YouTube series Dancing Through My Resume, Broadway Bucket List, and 20 Questions in 2 minutes. Please welcome back to the show, Josh Ferri.
Thank you.
Okay, before we begin this epic episode, I have to know, what is Broadway's obsession with these movie musicals? We saw today the big announcement, Death Becomes Her. We know Devil Wears Prada is coming. What's the, do we know not have any original material, or what's happening?
I have to stick up for the movie musical
I
adaptation.
know, that's why I asked you.
Because in an industry where it's all about branding, it helps bring certain people to the theater, especially people who might not go before. Like, people who are going to see Back to the Future, the musical, at $1 million a week, aren't going to see a Sondheim revival where everyone plays their own instruments. But maybe not everyone was going to. It's not going to be the exact same crowd. So in some ways, it belongs. And B, as a homosexual man of a certain age, Death Becomes Her the musical is
okay,
exciting.
Yes, I'm excited.
AF.
And Megan Hilty, like, come on,
Yes.
like, yes.
Although
okay.
in my dream world, imagine if it was the 3 original Wicked leads 25 years later, and you had Chenoweth, Menzel, and Norbert.
Oh, I could see
as
that.
Meryl, Goldie, and Bruce Willis.
I could see that.
Imagine.
See, that's
But
melding it. But,
yeah.
like, we have all these movies, like you said, Back to the Future, Beetlejuice, all of this stuff. And it's like, well, isn't it taking voices away from maybe new Sondheims, new,
It's so hard right now. It's different. It's a whole, Christina, we got the industry has changed. It's not.
But is
it's
it
harder to
becoming too
produce
commercial?
that.
And we're going to ask Christine about that because she has seen the growth of Broadway and the evolution
It's the
of
difference
that.
between nonprofits and commercial theater. The nonprofit theater can nurture people who are going to be the next Sondheim or Jason Robert Brown, where the commercial theater has to, at times, do Death Becomes Her and Back to the Future.
But are we cultivating an audience that's going to sit through Back to the Future, but they wouldn't know how to sit through a Sunday in the Park? I mean, Broadway would challenge
that makes me
audiences.
sad. It gave me pause because it made
It's
me
true.
sad, but
Yeah.
maybe. I mean, I never thought of it that way.
And again, like, investors are just pouring money into these big bombastic musicals. And it's like, are we missing these little jewels,
No, because look at the Tony Award winners. Every year, the Tony Award winning show is the little jewel that critics and
And it usually
New Yorkers
closes a
love.
few months after they win the awards.
Well,
Let's get it right, Broadway. Come on. Okay, let's get the lady of the hour.
Yes.
You and I are so excited. We've been like chopping at the bit.
Such a huge fan.
Christine Ebersole has captivated audience through her performing career from the Broadway stage, television series, and specials, films, concert appearance, and recordings. She's received virtually every off-Broadway award, and her second Tony Award for leading actress in a musical for her dual role of a lifetime, we know, as Edith Beale and Little Edie in Grey Gardens. Other stage performances include War Paint, which she received her 4th Tony nomination, and of course her Tony Award-winning performance as Dorothy Brock in the revival of 42nd Street, Steel Magnolias, On the 20th Century, Camelot, Oklahoma, Dinner at 8, which she received both Tony and Outer Critics Circle nominations. The Best Man, Blithe Spirit with Angela Lansbury, by the way, and her Obie and Drama Desk nomination, worthy appearance in Talking Heads. And she also made her operatic debut here in Los Angeles in Candide. Did you know that?
Excellent.
Yes, she did. She's appeared in many feature films, and this hits all the genres. Whatever you're a fan of, she's done it. Wolf of Wall Street, Amadeus, Tootsie, Richie Rich, Black Sheep, Dead Again, folks, Ghost Dad, True Crime, My Girl 2, and The Big Wedding. An extensive list of TV credits as well. Bob Hart's Abishola, Steven Universe, by the way, which we love. 3 seasons of the TBS comedy Sullivan and Son, Royal Pains, Madam Secretary, Blue Blood, Search Party, as well as, little known fact, on a season of Saturday Night Live, which we're going to get to that nitty gritty because that was during that time. Mm-hmm. A lot to talk about.
Her spot in Will and Grace was iconic.
Oh, hilarious! Iconic. Yeah, Patty was a little jealous of that. She was like, she did better than I did. No. Oh, there we go. That's the Amadeus look we were talking about. She's performed at every amazing venue all over the place in every kind of celebration that you can imagine. And her albums. Her latest one being After the Ball, which is a very personal album where it's her without the script, without other stuff, and it's a reflection on her life, and we're definitely going to talk about that. Also, you can catch her Southern California at Pasadena Pops with Michael Feinstein singing songs from Hollywood, and they've added Cheyenne Jackson, by the way. There's them having a little fun, and the after party at Michael Feinstein's house, which, if you're invited, yes. But go see that Saturday, September 9th. Go to pasadena-symphony-pops.org. And again, I was talking about After the Ball. One of my favorite tracks from that, we're going to hear just a little listen, is Autumn Leaves. This whole album is about her starting a new chapter reflecting on life, love, and family as the last of her 3 adopted children has flown the nest. We're going to talk about life after that. Just take a little listen to Autumn Leaves.
Since you went away, the days grow long, and soon I'll hear winter song, but I'll miss you most of all, my darlings. When autumn leaves start to fall, I miss you most of all, my darlings. When autumn leaves start to
You just have to pause after that. You just have to pause. So beautiful, so heartwarming, sad, bittersweet, everything. Please welcome Christine Ebersole. We have so much to talk about, so we're just going to jump right in. But before we get into the extensive resume chat, I want to know, what was life growing up in Illinois? What kind of kid were you? Were you rambunctious? Were you quiet? Were you stubborn? Like,
I think I was always ready for game.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And ready for mischief, but not in a bad way.
Like in a fun way.
Yeah, in a fun way. Yeah.
Did you find the stage early? Were you the star of your high school and all of that?
No. What happened was it was kind of in real life. Like, I remember one of my earliest memories was that I wanted to spend the day as a cripple.
Character study very early. So dark. How old were you?
I think I was 4 or 5.
Oh my gosh.
But my mother was so patient with me. I remember sitting in a chair in the kitchen, and she would just kind of walk around me, and just do whatever she had to do, her chores. And I remember having to go to the bathroom, but I couldn't really because I was crippled. So I just crawled.
Did you always stay method as you continued
I
to
guess
act?
so, yeah, because when I was in 3rd grade and we had moved to a new house, was in 3rd grade, we were studying pioneers. And so I decided to be a pioneer.
Like, we're having beans again for dinner.
No, I slept on a sled.
The Daniel Day-Lewis
Yeah,
before
very
Daniel
that.
Day-Lewis was.
It's so crazy. And then it was winter. I remember it was wintertime in Illinois, really cold. And my father had this really, really big shawl from, I don't know, when he was a kid or something. It was a wool shawl. And I remember like mailing a letter and wearing the shawl around my neck and going to the mailbox. And it was, freezing cold and stuff like that.
Very dramatic early on.
And then there was the running away from home. And that was when that was the day after my birthday when I was 9. And my mother wanted me to continue playing the piano. And so I knew that was just not a possible thing for me because so I left a runaway note on her pillow that said, "Dear Mom, I'm leaving for another place. As I told you, I'm more for the world than piano." That was at 9, But what I did was I went into the attic and I got a life preserver out. This was, again, my birthday was in February, so this was really cold. I had on red corduroy pants, saddle shoes, a cardigan, like sweater set, and this yellow life vest. And I thought, I'm going to swim to Michigan. And I'm going to find a family that understands me.
And there's no piano.
It doesn't want you to play piano.
I don't have to play the piano. So our house was on a corner, and I just remember like getting leaving the note on my mother's, on her bed, and then going out our house was on a corner. I walked out the front door, and I see the snowflakes falling. You can see like there's the light street and the light lamp, and I'm wearing my saddle shoes, so I'm kind of slipping and sliding, And I thought, oh goodness, I have to walk a mile to get to Lake Michigan, and then I got to jump in the water, and then I got to swim. I don't know how many hundreds of miles to get to Michigan. So I just remember walking out the front door, around the corner, and in the back door. That's what I did. I got that far.
I ran away to my laundry room.
But my
when I
mother
young.
was so nice. She didn't say, well, you didn't get too far, did you? She was just kind of like, well, you're going to take piano lessons. You're going to still continue. So.
And it's funny, not connecting with the piano when music is such a big part of your life. What was it about the piano that you just didn't like?
It was the practicing.
So many hours.
Oh, yeah, the practicing. Yeah.
Now, as an actress now, do you enjoy the rehearsal process, or do you get me in front of an audience?
Very much, yeah, very much. And I think the older you get, the more you need the rehearsal, because I actually learned Camelot in 3 days.
That's insane.
You heard about this story, right?
I haven't heard the story,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
know like how young you were.
Yeah.
Richard Burton. It was the
Yeah,
revival.
Yeah,
But
and I replaced somebody, and they said when I auditioned for it, I was doing Oklahoma at the time,
80 Annie.
and I had given my 4-week notice, but I had 1 week left on the notice, and I went and auditioned for this. Barry Moss came up to me, and I was in a nightclub seeing somebody perform, and they said, "What do you think about playing Guinevere opposite Richard Burton in Camelot?" I was like, "That sounds good to me," They will come into the office and get the mimeograph sides, So I did, and when I went to the audition, and after the whole thing was over, the producers came up to me and said, "Hey, kid, can you learn the part by Friday?" And I was like, "Sure,"
Now, how did you learn so quick? Did you listen to the Julie Andrews version?
The good news was I knew all the songs
Yeah.
because
Camelot was a
I just
staple.
grew up with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I grew up with it, just listening to it, so I knew all the songs. But plus the girl who played the part was really short, so there were no costumes, nothing. They had to make the whole thing, and I flew to Canada on Monday. It was a sitz probe. On Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, they did tech rehearsals. They're adjusting the lights and everything. And Friday morning, we were opening for like 3,000 people. Franz Ahlers, who was this very famous German conductor, who welcomed me, for the run through before the performance that night. It says, good morning, this is Christine Ebersole. She will be here playing Guinevere. Good morning, Christine. And we'll start with the simple joys of maidenhood. And it's say Genevieve, say Genevieve. So they're saying I can't remember. Okay. All right, so let's begin again. I was like, oh. One more time. We'll begin again. I said, I can't remember anything.
They're about to send you back to Oklahoma.
So that somebody just took me into a dark room and said, don't think about anything. Just clear your mind because you got a show tonight.
But all that pressure being so young, fairly new-ish to New York, a few years studying and going right from studying to here we are with Richard Burton, by the way, in a well-known classic show.
Yeah. Well, I think it was my naivete.
Yeah.
It really was. That was really what got me through it because I didn't have time to stand back and go, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, okay. And it was just that I remember going backstage the very first time before I went on that Friday night, and I'm hearing Guinevere. I was like, oh, that's me. They're singing about me. And it was just this child wonder. Wow. That's what I was I was in it. I wasn't standing apart from it. I was just in it. And I think that's really what got me through,
And what a huge production. I was in the ensemble for 6 months of that with the full orchestra. That overture is one of the best overtures.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Oh, it's just stunning. But I want to know, you had just gotten off of playing Ado Annie, which we knew that character from the movie, from the original production. That LP was playing on everybody. So you played two well-known
Yours was the first
characters.
revival, though, right?
Which one? What?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Weren't you the first one after Celeste
both
Holmes?
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of them were the first.
1979 and
1980 was the first revival of Camelot.
So as an actor, how did you approach these roles when, even I know the Julie Andrews version of Camelot. I know the Shirley Jones Oklahoma. I know these LPs to even the scratches that are on our LPs.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you make the characters your own, being so young, but also knowing this is ingrained in our head? What was your approach?
More is more. I work from the outside out. That's how.
More is more. You heard it here, folks. That's going to be
my
the name of your
method,
biography, your memoir. More is more.
I don't know if recently, but when I searched the last time I searched, you can still find your Can't Say No on YouTube.
Yeah.
Someone has a recording of yes, you can see it.
Yes, you
It's
can
so
see it.
it's
You can see
perfection
it.
in every way that you could think. Yeah, it's great.
Oh,
You
thank
can find
you.
it. I
Thank
mean, it's
you.
grainy because of someone clearly took a
Yeah.
copy of
Yeah.
the library version.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's great.
Okay, just spill a little tea. Richard Burton, great to work with, a nightmare to work with, because I've talked to people that have worked with him that are on way either sides.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not possible. He was a dream.
Wow.
Absolute dream.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved him so much. And I think I was also prepared because my father was a very strong figure. He was kind of a larger than life person.
He was the steel factory owner, right?
He was he was he was a CEO of a steel company,
Right.
but he started out as a riveter, in Pittsburgh. So he was, he was a scrapper, from the streets kind of thing, and kind of was the American dream, was a self-made man kind of thing. But he had this larger than life. He was a frustrated actor himself, and he was always quoting from Shakespeare and all this kind of stuff. So. I think that I was not easily intimidated because my father was such a strong presence in my life. I wasn't easily intimidated by men. And I, because I loved my father so much, I love men, you know?
Yeah.
So Richard Harris and Richard Burton are both really larger than life characters. And I think that one of the things that is, particularly with Richard Harris, he didn't like people that were intimidated by him. If you were intimidated by him, he would have you for lunch. But if you weren't intimidated by him, he adored you.
Well, as an actor, you want somebody to be able to play off you in a scene. You want that energy. You want that person to be present, not to be fearful of you. You have to be the character.
Yeah.
So in a similar way of not being intimidated by your co-stars, what is your relationship with celebrity and fame been like? Because you've been the toast of the town many different points in your career.
In Hollywood, in the soap opera world,
but even
on stage.
When you were Edie Beale in Grey Gardens, it was the biggest performance in the biggest city in the country. Like
it was.
That's
what I call it. I call it the year of the prize pig.
Na.
You know, next year bacon. But that year was a very special year. Yeah, it was the year of the prize pig. I really feel fortunate that I don't see myself and I don't think I'm a celebrity. No, I'm definitely.
Could have fooled me with this long list.
No, but
credits
that's just like a working stiff.
working actor, yeah.
And you stay grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, you know, especially being married and with children and 8 animals. We live in a zoo.
Oh, I love that.
You know, it's the practical things, like picking up the dog poop. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
And there's
that's
the
what
reality.
keeps
You don't get in
that
this
keeps
fake
you-
bubble.
Exactly. That keeps you grounded.
Well, and I wanted to go back to your growing up. You were quoted saying, you know, because you grew up in a pretty affluent area, and and you said other people's families were spending all their money on country club membership fees, and your family was supporting the ACLU. Like that's just like the environment that you were coming from. So you come from this excuse the word staunch type.
Well, yeah, but my mother grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania. So there's really, you know, in our apartment in LA, I have a really big picture in honor of my mother, a really big painting of a cow, and because
I love that.
You know, and I said to my mother, I remember when she lived to be 100 years old, and she lived with us for the last 10 years, you know, for 10 years before she had to go into a nursing home, and that she was there for 5 years. She lived to be 100. But she was always so practical, you know, and both of my parents were so practical. They were not excessive, you know, they didn't live large in life and anything like that. It was just whatever you needed kind of thing, you know, and always things that were of high quality. But I just remember like saying, Mom, what's your favorite animal? And she said, a cow. I said, why is it your favorite animal? She goes, it gives milk. But I mean, just that kind of, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, we need a musical based on your life stats. But your career actually started with Angel Street. What was it like working on your first Broadway show, hot from the Academy, you know,
Of waiting tables at the Lions Rock.
That's what I want to know is those early years going from Illinois to New York.
Yeah.
Those early years where you're fresh faced, you're studying your craft, but you also have to pay your bills.
Yeah.
I want to know about those, and I want to know about some of your early auditions. Like, this is how we audition in New York as compared to studying school in.
Well, the thing is with Angel Street was that I had gotten an agent from the American Academy, which was very unusual because Lucy Kroll, who was the agent, she was representing the playwright Frances Letton, who wrote this play called The Robesart Affair, which was about Queen Elizabeth I and the Keeper of the Horses, and so she saw my performance, which was like the test drive, you know, to see if you would get into the second year. And she saw my performance and she wanted to represent me. So that was very unusual. So, but I was waiting tables at the time, and she had me audition for this producer named Shepard Traub, who had originally done the original Angel Street back in the 50s or whatever, and then it became, or maybe it was before that, because then it became the movie Gaslight.
Yeah.
It became the movie Gaslight from Angel Street, and that was Angela Lansbury's first film role, was playing Nancy, the Cockney maid, and that's the part that they had me audition for, but Christine Andreas was already playing the part with Dina Merrill starring in it. And then, so I met the producer. That's it. I didn't audition. I just met him, blah, blah, blah. That's it, And then I went back to waiting tables because Christine Andreas was already playing the part. So one night, it was in January, and I had just come home from work, waiting tables, and Lucy Kroll called me on the phone. She goes, "Darling, you're on Broadway." I was just like counting my money, you know what I mean? I'm like out of tips, and it's like, "Darling, you're on Broadway," and of course, that's such a a head trip. Yeah. So of course I go back to work and say, "I've got to leave you little people. The Great White Way calls." And so,
Literally, they called.
Yeah.
Now, were you good
called.
at waiting tables, or were you?
Yeah, I was good. I wasn't good in the beginning, but I lied my way into the job. I said I worked at the Steak and Brew, blah, 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 whatever, in Chicago. I made up this whole name. But this guy named Herbert, who was another German manager who was very gruff, and I think he knew I was lying, but he kind of liked my pluck, I think, so he hired me. And he was so great. I mean, he was always like, "I'm going to fire you if you don't get out of there." Right? But at the same time, if somebody stiffed us, he would literally drive them out. "Don't you ever come back! You treat my girls this way!" And then he'd turn around and say, "Now clean up the table." It's like, but it was great. But yeah, that
was your Broadway debut. Do you remember
that was
the
my
first
Broadway
night
debut.
you were on stage? What was going through your mind? From your role play in the attic with a life preserver to doing your Broadway debut. So many things must have been going through your mind.
It was a lateral move. No. No, it just, I don't know. It was just, it all felt like natural,
Well, and what about your early stories is that every role you play, no matter if it's on TV in so many different genres you've done, on film in so many different genres you've done, and on stage, every role you totally make your own. We've had this conversation that there's the idea of the Broadway diva, and you always know it's them playing the role. Yes, we know it's Christine Ebersole playing the role, but you encapsulate the character so well that we feel the story, we experience the story in such an actor way. And that's what I love, is that you are able to really embody a character that you play. And I guess now we know it started from early on with this dramatics.
How did you find yourself from the Toast of Broadway to the new girl on SNL?
Oh, can you imagine?
No, I can't.
I had just come off the road. I thought, I'm going to take the summer off. I was just, doing Camelot for a year, and I didn't want to renew my contract. And I went back to New York, and I got a call. I guess what happened was, first, I auditioned for a TV show called Love, Sydney, which starred Tony Randall and ended up with Swoosie Kurtz.
I love Susan.
But I auditioned for that. And Dick Ebersole got a hold of that tape because it was for NBC. And, of course, Saturday Night Live was on NBC. And so I got a call, and can you come in and meet with Dick Ebersole?
No relation, by the way, for people that don't know.
Right, he
There's
spells
no
S-O-L,
E.
and I spell S-O-L-E, yeah. And that's another show I never auditioned for.
It's so wild because now it's like,
Oh.
they would never pick a person from Broadway. It all
No.
comes from
Never.
stand-up because
No.
you write it too.
And that was
So it's
because
like,
of Dick
what?
Ebersole. That was because of Dick Ebersole. He wanted to add music to, just the whole evening, the
Yes.
whole genre of that. He wanted to put that in there.
Plus, it makes sense. Who else can do live better than people that do it 8 shows a week?
But
Right,
stand-up
right.
comedy could write the scenes because you have to write what you're doing. You can't
But
just...
we've seen stand-up comics.
Yeah.
They get
Oh,
in
yeah,
a
yeah.
certain...
But
it's
there
like-
was a song called Single Bars and Single Women that Michael O'Donoghue had written for me that I sang in the 3rd episode. And apparently all of the lights went crazy, lighting up with the, people calling. And Dolly Parton saw it, and she ended up recording it.
Wow. So when SNL didn't work, because you were part of that cast that was just for the. Were you heartbroken, or were you like, okay, well, I know I have a soft landing on Broadway, like.
No,
where
I
this is
got
going?
fired from that show.
Yeah.
I got fired from Saturday Night Live. And it was really disappointing because I was really unhappy on the show, but because it was, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a man's world.
That's what I was going to say.
Always, the
Yeah.
women on it.
Spill the tea. There's actually a movie coming out about these series of years. I mean, a lot of it is the honesty. You know, we love and adore SNL. It's part of our comedy history. But there's a darker side to that. There was a darker side during the years that you were there, where
Yeah.
it was a man's world. It was very misogynistic. There was a lot of drugs going on.
Yeah.
The pressure and what was happening was just not
Pressure was
realistic.
insane. Yeah, a 90-minute live show in 6 days. In 6 days. It was crazy.
But girl, you did Camelot in 3.
That's true.
She's like the Broadway Genesis, and on the third day, we were on Broadway. But kind of share some of the honesty of your experience and how SNL was not.
Well, I think
maybe
it
the
was a
best
really
environment.
well. I mean, I don't want to say not the best environment. It was really challenging environment because it was not something that it wasn't something I was used to. You know, I was used to Broadway and singing Guinevere in Camelot, and then all of a sudden I'm thrown into this arena that I didn't have a lot of confidence. Everybody that was there was stand up.
Was anyone there looking out for you? Was there someone that you remember at the time being like, if it wasn't for this person, I don't know how I would have gotten through it?
Oh, there was the cast was amazing. The
okay.
cast was so great, and everybody was great. It was just the system that you couldn't really fight. Not the individuals weren't bad, but it was the system that you couldn't really get around. I just speaking me personally. The only way that I had confidence was in the singing. And Tom Malone, who was the head of the band, came up with all these kind of great things like K-Tel Records, Jesus in Blue Jeans, and what was the other one? Middle Age Rock, the night my Cuisinart broke down, stuff like that.
Clip it. My new ringtone.
Stuff like that. So it was, and plus I was going through a divorce too at the same time. So I was not on sure footing. It was really a very difficult time, a very challenging time. And so I can't really, it's just sort of, I found myself in this foreign land. That's really what it was. I don't think that in and of itself, I mean, it's an amazing format. I mean, look how long it's gone on for. Yeah.
But it did have its
and it
issues.
launches careers.
And they had no set ways of doing things. There was no rules. There was no restrictions. Like we know, like we check in, we have our warm up, and this is what we do as performers.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
They didn't know what they were doing. I mean, how many versions of SNL were at the beginning?
It was the in between time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was because it was Lorne Michaels who had the first 5 years, and then he left, and then Jean Domanian came in. She was there for a year, and then Dick Ebersole came in, and he was there for 5 years, whatever. But then Lorne Michaels came back. Mm-hmm. So in a way, they were kind of the lost years, the in-between years. They were like the bastard children kind of years.
And then they made you the news update person, which to me, that's the most static, most less free, artistic to me.
Well,
no offense to who does it, but it's
But I think that really the way that I felt that I could contribute was through music, which was why Dick Ebersole hired me anyway.
So then we talked about this off air, but while we're sticking to screen, to millennials, you are a huge part of people who grew up in the 90s childhood between your role in My Girl, Veda Comes to See You, Stay With You. Then, of course, I wanted to, before I could put into words, I knew that I wanted to be you in Richie Rich. And then, of course, there's Black Sheep, which all my straight
and in Richie Rich, I mean, the side-by-side, that's
so
a sound
glam.
clip that's gone viral on YouTube.
Yeah.
And of course, Amadeus, which
the glamour
huge.
of Amadeus.
And Tootsie, by the way, too.
Yes.
These are all movies from our movie history.
But do people in their late 30s and 40s interact with you in a different way because that's their initial touchstone to you?
That
like?
or anytime I would go to Krispy Kreme, they would say in Penn Station, they'd say, "Are you the mother on the Brady Bunch?"
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
I could kind of see that.
Yeah. Which she actually did. Florence Henderson actually played my mother in Samantha Who.
I would say, did they think you were her? Did they think you were?
No, I was her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they thought I was her.
Not the one from
Yeah.
the movie. Who played it in the movie? From Cheers. I can't think of her name right now.
Shelley
Long.
Long.
Shelley Long. Yes.
Yeah. I just love the idea of 2-time Tony Award winners going to get Krispy Kreme. There we go. If
Well,
you want
let's just
Christine's,
say
yeah.
I'd walk by Krispy Kreme.
And you'd smell the waft. We got a lot of emails about this, and I found it very interesting. My mom was very much into soap operas. She was a single mom, and our time together was she would work 2 jobs and come home later at night, and every day was taped on the VCR the soap operas. So that was our bonding experience with soap operas. We know in the early years in New York, Ryan's Hope, One Life to Live, which you got an Emmy Award nomination, by the way. Like, soap opera could have been your career, and a lot of the actors have stayed with it throughout the years, where there's the safety, what to expect day by day, filming, shooting, what your hours are. There's a fandom there, but you didn't just stick with that. Even after you got some
Acclaim.
Yeah, acclaim. What was that environment like? And why was that not for you, or how did you know it was time to move on?
I think ultimately it wasn't challenging for me. I think that's really what it was. It was like I preferred, which I know it's not politically correct to say, but it was the gypsy life.
Yeah.
That's the thing is like, I really loved going from one thing to the next. I never, ever renewed a contract.
Which is funny because when we
Never.
look at all the stuff that we've talked about since the beginning of the show, it's all in the same kind of time period. We're talking about SNL, we're talking about the soap opera, we're talking about early Broadway. This is all happening. And for those actors out there that do a show and then they need to take a year off, this is all happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Now, you as an actor, how did you know where to focus your career? It's like,
Where to
yes,
put your feet.
Yeah, I could. Okay, let's do another Broadway show, or let's get back to TV, or let's do a film. How did you know what to focus on? What did you want to focus on?
I think the world took care of that. It was just kind of what was in front of me.
I actually had a question because we talked about this before. Your career, obviously between the TV, between the theater, all of it, you must have had a lot of opportunity come your way. Is there something, what's the project that you turned down that would shock us the most right now?
Castle.
Oh, really?
Oh, Maggie Sullivan, yes?
Yeah.
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 Gotcha.
I
But
got
all
offered
the drama that
that.
happened on that show.
I got offered that, but what happened was I was doing at the Boston Pops. I was doing a little night music, and I was doing a little night music with Mary Louise Wilson.
Oh.
And I thought, it conflicted shooting the pilot with opening night. And I thought, I can't do this. I gotta be a team player. It's just the way I was brought up and the way that work ethic, and I thought, I can't do this TV show. And I also turned down a movie that was, I don't remember the name of it, but I turned down a movie and turned this down. And because I wanted to, just show that that I'd already been selling tickets, and I wanted to show that I was a team player, that I was going to be there. I wasn't going to bail. And the night before opening, Mary Louise Wilson bailed. But
No way! Oh my God!
so was like, "What? What do you do? What do you mean?"
And you're like, say what?
Yeah. So that's the irony there. But yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah.
But it's funny because
It's like $10 million.
But you're speaking of this is what your passion was, this is what your gut was. So many times
Yeah.
as actors, performers, we never know when it's time to say goodbye to a project.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
there's safety in having that paycheck. We never know what to say yes to, what's going to be a hit, because some things that are a surefire hit in our minds are just not.
Yeah.
I mean, you just never know. I want to talk about On the 20th Century. For those that are not familiar with this production, the names associated with this production: Kevin Kline, Madeline Kahn, Imogene Coca, Betty Comden, Cy Coleman, Hal Prince. We look back and we see, God, this was really an all-star. And you were kind of an alternate understudy, and then you took over.
Oh, there's a story there, yeah.
Here we are. Take it away, Christine.
Well, there was a big thing in the paper because Madeline Kahn had left the show,
Yeah.
and Judy Kay took over, made the post. I think, a star is born kind of thing.
Yep.
So they needed a replacement because Judy Kay was the understudy, and she played the part of Agnes, who was the maid in the show. So the next day, they have everybody come in and audition. I was the first one to audition. And after the audition, there was a whole gaggle of girls waiting to come on, and do their auditions. Hal Prince comes running up on the stage, and he took me back and said, it was similar to Camelot. He said, "Kid, can you learn the part in 48 hours?" Wow. And not by Friday, but it was 48 hours. And I said, sure, What do you know? I was 25.
I guess the story to young artists is to say yes and just do it.
Definitely say yes.
Sorry. What did that production teach you, though? I mean, you have like Hal Prince. We're talking about these big names. What did that whole thing teach you about yourself as an actor?
Well, the thing that stood out for me was that I felt that I really had the comedy down. I totally had the comedy down, but I had no vocal technique. I was a natural singer, but I didn't have any. I didn't know how to get from, the low note to the high note without
the break.
Fingers crossed that I don't crack. You know what I mean? Yeah, without the break. And I remember Paul Giamatti when I went on because I went on for Lily Garland 8 times, and every time he would literally stand on his toes so that he would hope that I would get the note. You know what I mean? It was like, if I stand on my toes, she'll hit that note. And fingers crossed. But that was the thing. So after that, I started to study with this incredible teacher named Marge Rivingston. And she was the one who really just put it all together. Because it's a wide range, and these different styles that I can sing in. So to get that kind of thread that kind of get through all the notes, that's what she did for me.
Do you continue to study voice?
No. I only studied voice for a very little time, but I do know the secret to my being able to my vocal cords stay warmed
amazing.
up. And that is, talking to the animals.
All 8.
All 8 of them, yes, particularly the bird.
What kind of bird do you have?
We have a cockatiel. Her name is Big Sally. It used to be Sally, but then I found out it was a boy, so it changed to Big Sally. Yeah,
it's a drag queen.
It's like how Big Julie and Guys and Dolls could go either way.
Yeah.
Did you? I want to talk a little bit about a project that is very close to me and Alexander's heart, which is our quintessential gypsy, the made-for-TV
1993
film
Bette
with
Midler.
Bette Midler, and you played Tessitura.
You gotta
and it's the
have
best
a gimmick.
Tessitura that's ever been.
Oh,
What
you're
was
so
that
nice.
experience
Thank you.
like?
It was amazing.
And gimmick was like Linda Hart and the original
Yes,
Jenny Anydots, and
yes.
Was it
the
just as
best.
fun as we imagined
Yes,
it was? Oh,
it was
Oh, good.
absolutely just as fun. And Bob Mackie made my wedding dress.
Wow.
So we knew Bob Mackie.
He only dresses for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and there was like an amazing story that happened because Bill, my husband Bill Maloney,
He's so handsome, by the way.
isn't he?
Yeah. Wink, wink. If she's ever on tour. I know how to take care of a bird called Big Sally.
But Bill's parents were in burlesque.
How fabulous.
Yeah, Bill's parents were in burlesque, and they were in a theater called The Follies, which was in downtown Los Angeles. And we were shooting, you got to have a gimmick, in this old theater that was like it was like a legit theater downtown in Los Angeles that had become like a movie theater for Spanish movies. But you could still see like the old light board and everything was there. And so Bob Mackey's there. And I'm there, with hardly any clothes on.
Looking
ready to do
fabulous,
the number.
by the way.
Bill is there as well. And Bill said, the 3 of us are talking together in between takes. And he says, my parents used to perform down here in in this theater called the Follies. It's now a parking lot, but a theater called the Follies. And Bob Mackie goes, I used to skip school and go to the Follies.
Oh my God.
I used to go to the Follies. Who were your parents? He says, Johnny Maloney, the Prince of Personality. That was his father. Bring on the beautiful girls. He was like the Irish tenor that brought on the beautiful girls. And his mother was Ginger O'Dare, also known as Ginger Snaps, and she had a rain dance. But he was like, I knew them.
Wow.
No, it was like these worlds colliding.
Christine,
it was the craziest.
Your whole life has been predestined. Let's just agree. It's been pre-planned, like all of this.
How crazy is that?
Also, hearing Follies, how did you never do Sally or Phyllis? How did that not?
I auditioned.
No.
I auditioned.
For the roundabout one? The Blythe
No,
Danner
the one that was on Broadway.
No, that was on Broadway.
Yeah.
The
Oh, yeah,
one
that's
with
right.
that
You're right,
one?
the roundabout.
Not the Bernadette
Yeah.
Peters, Jan Maxwell one. The one before.
No, the one before that.
Yeah.
I auditioned for
Wow.
it, and what did I get? I got 42nd Street instead.
Well,
Well,
it worked
then
out for
we
you.
know.
Well,
Yeah,
then
worked out
didn't
for me.
it?
We know
Yeah,
how that did.
mhm.
You've talked about your career shift in Hollywood. We were talking about the movies of the 80s and 90s, and you've talked about this, but I want to address it on this show when the kind of roles that you were being offered to audition for kind of shifted, and you're like, well, let's pack up our bags, let's move back to the East Coast. How did that play with your mind? Like, how did that play with your psyche? And do you think ageism in Hollywood has gotten better since then?
Well, there's that in-between time, I think, that's where it's, in your 40s when things start to... Well, my agent just didn't make any outgoing phone calls. That was
Hey,
it.
that's how you get a new agent.
That's what happened there, And that's when I said, what's happening? How come I'm not doing it? When he said, well, you're 45, So anyway, I got rid of that agent. But, yeah. But then when you get past that, then I guess it opens up again because the playing field narrows because everyone's kind of quit the business,
And then the people who don't quit have the opportunity,
Yeah.
like you do now, on
Bob Hart's
Bob
ever
Hart's-
show up.
yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it's a whole different.
It's a whole different
ballgame.
thing. Yep, exactly.
You've seen this evolution. We kind of talked about it in the pre-question. This evolution from your first Broadway show to Warpaint. What do you think about the evolution of Broadway? Are we getting too commercial?
Okay, so here I was hearing about that
Yeah.
since
Yes.
we were
Yeah.
talking about that before the show. Somebody had said something really interesting just recently. They said, Broadway is becoming sort of like those flagship stores, like those big flagship stores where they don't necessarily make money at those flagship stores, but they show you what the product is.
That's
So,
a great.
so this is so what's happening now is it's really about touring the country,
Yeah.
and you're not going to get those little again what you were saying about the little gems of the little seeds of originality that aren't taking something from a movie or these big blockbuster things. Those will, I think, always be there, but they have to be in an environment where that can nurture and grow, not like a big warehouse. They don't grow.
If you look at it, like things
Seeds
like
don't grow so well in those
Fun
environments.
Home came from the Public Theater.
Right.
Kimberly Akimbo, this
Yes.
year's Tony Award winner, came from the Atlantic Theater.
Yes,
They come from small off-Broadway
Mm-hmm.
houses that
Caroline
can
Our
nurture
Change,
them.
one of our favorite
Yes.
musicals.
And then put them there and hope for the best and
But
gamble
my
with
fear
them.
is like, and I keep bringing it back to Sunday in the Park with George because that was
Which
one of the
came
first.
from Playwrights Horizons, a
Right,
small
but if that were
off-Broadway
to tour
theater.
now, it wouldn't. I don't care who you cast in it. It wouldn't be.
Jake and Annalise sold. Jake Gyllenhaal sold that show.
No, if you were to tour it, I mean. So we're talking
Well,
about
touring
taking to tours. Old Broadway. I don't want to say old Broadway. I don't know why I just said that. Independent gems is where my jam is at. Those are the
Yeah.
albums that I commiserate with and I listen to over a Sunday in the Park. Caroline or Change, Next to Normal. These
Yeah.
kind of And so my fear is we're just doing all the way. And it's like, how loud is this? Turn up the speakers, and that means that the music is better, and that's not true.
Yeah.
There's always space for them. It's just they're not going to get the nationwide press. So nationwide, here in California, of course, we're going to hear about the movie musical adaptations. But if you were in New York and subscribing to New York Magazine and reading the Times and in the moment, then you're going to know about you're probably not going to the movie musicals, and you're going to know about the Kimberly Kimbo and A Strange Loop and all of that, and live in that space more.
And there are those places like Steppenwolf and places like that where things can
it's different
stand
audiences.
on their own. Yeah.
Like I saw Warpaint 5 times. I loved Warpaint.
Oh,
I was all about
thanks.
that season.
I love doing that.
But what I'm concerned about
And
is
that started out in Chicago.
Yes.
yes, it
At the
did.
Goodman.
Yes, it did. But Mike, also, we're at such an impasse right now, socially and politically. And so I'm talking about bringing theater to that small town that's all voting against LGBTQ rights. That's in a certain area. It's like we're not bringing culture there because culture's not being appreciated. But they'll see a musical like Back to the Future. What does that do?
Or in theory, they're seeing a musical like The Prom that opened on Broadway and then had the opportunity to tour, and then had like a subpar movie, a movie with like people that they recognize, so they'll go see it and then have like a cool message. I don't know. You never know. I'm an optimist about
No,
it.
think
I
there's-
always want to
there-
believe in
there-
Broadway.
There, you know what it's really like? It's like if you walk along the sidewalk and you see the cement there, and then you see a crack in the cement, and you see a little palm tree that's growing out of the crack of the cement. It's always that's really what art is.
There's survival in art.
Yeah, it's always going to emerge. It's not even going to let the cement stop it. So whatever these systems are that we're in now that are preventing this or getting rid of these small theaters and everything, it's the nature of art. It's always going to emerge somewhere.
Yeah.
I love this.
So after,
Clip that one.
As we talk about like touring, it made me think. Excuse me for not knowing, but after the year of the Prize Pig, did they want you to go to London? They want you to tour it? Did you say I've done it playwrights, I did it on Broadway, I'm stepping away from Edie now?
No, we
Like, how
tried
did
to
it
take
go?
it to London.
Oh, wow.
Scott Frankel and I went to London, but they said, they won't get it here, darling. They
don't have
like
the
Mamma
Kennedy
Mia.
lore. The Kennedy lore doesn't work in London.
Yeah, they just said that they like Mamma Mia. But they ended up doing it there
No.
with Jenna Russell.
Oh, Jenna Russell. Yeah, that makes sense.
Who's wonderful.
She's great.
Yeah. So, but they did it,
Who
not in
played
the
the
West
other
End.
role?
I don't know, but it wasn't in the West End. It was like off Broadway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was way off.
But before we get to Grey Gardens, because we got so many questions, not that we're going to dwell on that,
Mm-hmm.
we have to talk about your first Tony Award nomination, 42nd Street.
Yeah.
Do you remember where you were when you found out that you were nominated?
I don't know. Was I in bed? I'm not sure. I might have been.
Do you wake up for this thing, or do you wait till an agent calls you?
I don't know. I can't remember.
But now,
It
I'm
was
like,
too
if
long
you do
ago.
something that's
Oh.
no, you like
That.
you don't buy into it.
What,
All of it?
so
She has two. I mean, what's she going to do with two more? I mean, just take some space. I mean, more things to dust. She's got 8 animals to change.
That's
You
true.
think she
There's
wants
a
to
lot of
dust
animals.
2 more Tony Awards.
that's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
So I guess the question then becomes, and this is from an actor, how did that first Tony Award change your view on what you wanted to do next career-wise, the roles you wanted to take on Broadway, even your life outlook?
Well, I think the what it does is it gives you more visibility, and then it gives you somehow more credibility. Because if they say, Tony Award winner, it's like, she knows what she's doing, which isn't necessarily the case. But
Again, we're talking about that little kid in the attic. She knew what she was doing. She was playing a role. She was committed for a little journey. She came back. That's dope.
oh my goodness.
Okay, so the time has come. Grey Gardens.
How was one different than two? How was the Grey Gardens experience different than 42nd Street?
Well, 42nd. I think 42nd Street, I think, was an acknowledgement of my time in New York and Broadway, and then I left and went to LA, and then I came back. So it was kind of a
The career Tony that
it
some
was,
people
it was,
get.
It
yeah.
was, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But Grey Gardens was really, life changing. just in terms of just the journey of that playing both of those characters.
So this is where some of the after questions that we got came in is, number one, what was your exposure to the Grey Garden story before taking it? And did you have any trepidation in taking on this role? Because it could have been a huge hit, which it was. It could have been a huge fail, like Faye Dunaway and Mommy Dearest, when they encapsulated characters so much and so well. That's a big character.
Camp,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And you made the role not camp.
Oh, no, it was the strong... most people... I hang around with Broadway people all the time, and all we ever do is talk about the performances we've seen, what we love.
This is totally true, by the way.
I tell
we
you,
talk about you all the time.
8 out of 10, 7 out of 10 people that I know will tell you the greatest performance they saw, my age, obviously, the greatest performance they saw on stage was Grey Gardens.
Wow.
Did you want to take any? Did you have any trepidation? Like maybe this is not.
No. Here's what happened. I was out in Los Angeles doing a TV show called Kid Mayor. It was a pilot, and Adam Sandler was producing it, and I was out there for about a month. I was staying with my friend Jeff Danis, and I had bought a brand new DVD player. It was back in the day. And he said to me, have you ever seen, I was going to go to, Blockbuster or whatever and get a bunch of videos because there's a lot of downtime, when you're doing television. So he said, have you ever seen the movie Grey Gardens? And I said, I've heard of that. But no, I've never seen it. He goes, oh, rent that. You'll like that. So I got a bunch of other videos and I rented Grey Gardens. And I brought it back to his house where I was staying. And he kind of makes a joke of like, I became so obsessed with watching Grey Gardens. I never saw any of the other videos. I became so completely obsessed watching this morning, noon, and night. It was like he felt like he was like serving my dinner in a tray underneath the door. You know what I mean? Because I wouldn't come out. All I did was watch Grey Gardens. I never, ever occurred to me, oh, this will make a great musical. You know what I mean? No.
Who could have thought of the Act 1 part of it?
No.
Who would have thought? Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of does make sense Broadway-wise in that it's in a stationary set, but everything. But it's so intoxicating, right? It's like a train wreck that you don't want to look at, but you have to.
No, it's like the Titanic. You think, how, they're rich people. How is this happening?
So did the boys write it for you? Was it written onto you?
Because it was off-Broadway first.
Yes. It
was, it was done at Sundance in Florida.
No, wow.
In Florida. We went down to Florida. They used to have
So you were
place
with it the whole time? There was never...
Oh, yeah. From the beginning.
Okay.
Scott Frankel wanted... and I was like, how did he know that? I don't know. But there was no act 2 when we went down there.
How did you know how to say yes to this? This sounds pretty scary and
because,
like a gamble.
No, it was almost like God was preparing me because the year and a half before I was in Los Angeles watching this thing, and then all of a sudden I get this call. Do you want to do a thing about Grey Gardens? I was like, I know this. Wow. I know it. Like every nuance, everything. I just like absorb it like the cripple,
At 4 years old.
At 4 years old.
But can as an actor on having done so many different mediums, you could also see the danger in it, right? That if it was
no, not at all.
Girl, you.
No,
I want your lottery ticket picks because you just know like what's going to happen.
No, because when you identify with something and I intrinsically understood these women. Don't ask me how, but I identified with them. I completely identify with them.
Like we've been
joking. That's how I was able to absorb it, I guess.
But we joke, the Beals were in their own fantasy world in that house, and they were completely happy. They were in their castle. We're talking about you.
Me in the kitchen was no different.
As the cripple, as like you were in your world.
In the world.
Maybe that's why you captured it so lovingly, because it was a love song. Your performance was a definite love song. Did you know it was going to be such a big hit and become a pop culture phenomena?
No, not at all.
It was such an interesting season because it was Grey Gardens, which was this acting masterclass, highbrow, everyone. And then the other big show, two big shows that year were Spring Awakening, the young people, all these
which
new
won
stars.
best musical.
Yeah. And then Legally Blonde, which didn't get the awards love, but got
We're talking
a
about
Broadway
movie musical
fandom.
again.
Yep.
But a Broadway fandom that is 20 years later still I think Legally
That is
Blonde
very
is produced
true.
more than the other two shows.
And Skylar Astin was just on the show, and he just did the reunion of Spring Awakening.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. But Legally
It was
Blonde, you're
wild.
right.
Yeah, it was a wild season that 2007.
Totally.
Was it bittersweet saying goodbye? Because you did the whole run. Was it bittersweet saying goodbye to the Bouviers? Or was it time? Was
Well,
it like...
I don't think they ever left totally, you know.
Do you do her in concert? Do you do it?
Not really.
I don't think I've ever heard you do anything.
What do you
about
like to
that
do
in
when you do
concert?
when it's Christine in charge of Christine? What do you like to perform?
Well, it depends. The last show that I did was in 2016 was After the Ball, and it was just that I wrote 7 shows, and that was the last show that I wrote, and it's all comes out of, you know, just things that are happening in my life that I want to share.
We talked about After the Ball is very personal.
Yeah.
And when we listened to Autumn Leaves, the reason I played that snippet is because I love the instrumentation behind it, because it's, you know, we love your other albums. They're very big, and it's you know, this is so intimate and so loving. And then we hear all the nuances of your voice. And we see the story that you're telling, and you're one of the best storytellers on stage, on screen, on TV.
Thank you.
And it comes from, like, you're ready to share your personal life. I know, you know, you've been through a lot. Your first divorce was very, you know, soap opera world, and here's what was going on. 3 adopted children, which that comes with, you know, a lot of public attention as well. And then you're sharing, well, my kids have left the house, enjoying my life with my handsome husband.
Yes.
But
35 years Bill and I celebrated.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That really is that's 100
That's a
years in
lot.
Hollywood,
Yeah,
isn't
hello.
it?
It is. It's 1,000 years in gay years, by the way.
You're basically Adam and Eve, the
Yeah.
gays. Yeah.
But After the Ball, putting this together, what was your inspiration to be like, you know what, I need to put this out? And what was it like recording this when it was just your feelings? It wasn't stuck to a theme. You weren't trying to impress your Broadway fans. There was no Grey Gardens. There was nothing. It was you.
Yeah. It was kind of an identity crisis that I was going through. So that's what it was. The inspiration behind that was, it's like, you know, so much of my life was in having a career that I had, and being a mother to 3 children, I missed out on a lot. And so then when they left and they were all in, you know, college and far away, it was like, who am I? Like, what is my purpose? Like, what is, you know, because, you know, show business is, it's not the same as being a parent. It just isn't. It's not as, you know, you don't hug your Tonys at night. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't. So that was sort of like an anchor for me, you know, with Bill and the children, and the home life, that was an anchor that I was always like going off and then coming back to this place of solace and sanctuary and meaning and validation and all that. And so when that was gone, it was like, well, who am I? Because I'm not. If I think that I'm all these parts that I play, then I'm a goner. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. It means nothing. It means nothing. Isn't it weird? But it's true. So that's what I had to really. That's what I wanted to just sort of express and try to work out my identity. Who am I?
Now, does having the empty nest in some ways give you the freedom then to be like, well, you have a popular sitcom right now, but because of the strike, are you like, let me throw myself into my sitcom? Let me consider getting scripts for an 8-show week again or a 6 show? Like,
It's
whatever it would
interesting
be.
because what I've learned is that being a mother is an ongoing thing. You know, it doesn't stop when the kids grow up and leave the home when they're 18 or whatever. It continues. And so that's really kind of what I've been trying to address or try to focus on, is how I can be the best mother that I couldn't be when I was gone and wasn't there to tuck them in bed at night and wasn't there to make sure that they had their teeth brushed or their homework done or any of that stuff. How can I continue to be a positive influence in their life, even though they're grown-ups now?
Well, and just, you know, your role as a child never changes either, where you're always looking towards your parents, no matter where you are in the world, for that love.
Is that true, isn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing such like an intimate part of your life. It's very touching. And look at the legacy that you have, and you know you were working hard to provide as part of the family.
Yes.
And there's that love and affection, and look at this beautiful album that you have to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that really does express my great love for my children and my husband and my family, you know, and that's really the core of life.
Now, how do you maintain a healthy relationship when you are so busy and it's like back, you know, your lovely husband is here in studio supporting you? How do you maintain that healthy kind of relationship when everybody needs your time? Everybody has the idea that they want to hang out with their idea of Christine Ebersole. You have to present that idea. You know, God forbid you should be in a bad mood and a fan asks for an autograph. And then you have to come home, which is your safe space, but also you have to maintain a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
How does one do that?
With God's help, honestly. That's really what it is. I try to do what would be pleasing to God.
God wanted you to do this podcast. Okay.
I mean, I say that all the time. Thank you, you know, for being patient with me, you know, with Bill, or to say, you know, that God is teaching me patience because I know that God is so patient with me. So, you know, I'm trying to be patient with others. You know, it doesn't always work, but but I try to keep it in mind, you know, things like that.
So I had two more Broadway questions. One being, Warpaint was obviously this amazing vehicle for you and
We got a bunch of
Patty.
emails about
you
that.
and Patty LuPone. It was like
Who I love.
respect.
And
It was like the Baby Jane
love,
for
yeah.
Broadway fans. It was like, what?
Yeah.
Christine and Patty together?
People
in
literally
an original
thought-
musical where they're wearing these incredible costumes. Like,
Yeah.
it was everything.
When the announcement first came out, everyone said, this is fake. There's no way that these two women are on stage at the same time. What is this rehearsal going to be? What do they have to serve at, like, you know...
So tell all of us who are dying for it, what was either a little like juicy piece or a really funny piece of that experience for you?
And playing
The
Elizabeth
two of us.
Arden, by the way, was such an icon.
I listen to Pink all the time. That's the number.
Amazing song. Yeah. It was the same team, you know.
It was your Great Gardens. You felt
It was the same
they knew
team.
you.
Yeah. And Patty just, you know, she just always upped your game, you know. There was always this feeling of like, I gotta be my best because I'm with Patty.
Yeah, I mean, in shows like Great Gardens and Warpaint, where it's not a two-hander, but in several instances it somewhat is. Do you have to change your style to be a little bit with the other person, with Mary Louise Wilson, with Patty LuPone, or do you just do Christine and hope the parallel trains?
Well, no, it's just that you feel I mean, like with Mary Louise Wilson, oh my gosh, she was amazing. Just the strength of her character and her the support of the mutual understanding of who these women are. It just made the ride like super easy. Same with Patty, you know.
I don't know what the rehearsal process for War Paint was, because we know rehearsal room is full of, and everybody's like, look at these two divas on stage, you know. How were you able to shut that out and still build a character, still build that chemistry with Patty on stage and having this kind of expectation, this pressure, like, okay, you know, it's like the Avengers on stage, you know. But how do you make that intimate and real and not so...
But I think that's an outside perception. I don't think that's what the process is on the inside.
It's because you're so grounded. Again, we go back to that attic. Because you were grounded in your character. There was no audience applauding. You were just like, I'm devoted to this character.
It also goes back to a little bit what Sarah Jessica Parker says about the way, in her experience, Sex and the City is treated, where people are like, what's happening backstage? Are you guys getting along? In the same way, like, the idea of Patty and Christine together, to Broadway people are like, oh my God, these two 30-plus year career divas together. Like, what's happening? What's happening?
There's always the chatter, and the gays want, like, oh, I'm sure, you know, whose dressing room is bigger and all that. And it's like,
hers was bigger.
Ah! I don't know why.
She had the first floor. I had to climb up to the second.
The whole stairs. What would bring you
yes,
back now?
Yes, but that's the thing, is that's also the beauty about that was that I knew that she was the queen. I'm serious. I'm so serious about this. And knowing that that's what I believed about her, and that's what I knew about her, that's what I knew her to be, that I know it sounds crazy, but I just wanted to serve her.
I understand what you mean. If it was two people head to head, it would have been Mary, Queen of Scots, and Elizabeth I.
Yeah.
But for Christine to say, I will respect Patty enough that I will bend.
Did you guys laugh about it at least? Be like,
yeah.
oh, well, I have to climb up another floor. Did you get to that point where you're laughing about it?
No.
I would have been like, well, I guess I'll do my cardio for today and check my steps since I have to go up to the second floor. That's what I would have said.
So that was the last.
No, but the thing is, too, that's another thing. She had to have her hip replaced. How is she going to walk up the stairs? But not only that, you're going to give the queen the room on the first floor.
So that was your last Broadway outing.
Yeah.
We got this question back so many times.
What would bring you back? Are you someone who wants only an original work that is, built to you that you can do, or is there a revival that is so appealing that you were like, someone produce me, I'll do it. I want to play one of the Armfelds. I want to play something. You had never done Sondheim on Broadway.
No.
There was no Mrs. Lovett, no Desiree, no Phyllis or Sally, none of those.
No. I think, again, it's what comes my way, and then you make the decision when it comes your way, yes or no. But I think probably something original would be a first choice.
Was there a MAME revival being talked about? I feel like I remember working on Broadway and people talking about.
There was a
movie.
movie.
It you and Harriet Harris? No, there was a MAME revival that people were talking about on stage.
Yeah,
and Christine
there was Christine Baranski that did it.
Christine Baranski did it then, but I thought it was you after Great
But
Gardens.
I did it at the Paper Mill.
Yes,
in 1998.
Ben Platt? Was Ben Platt?
No,
your
that was
Patrick?
that was in at the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh, okay.
And I did it there as well, but I was Vera.
Oh, fabulous.
One of my
you could do
favorite
either one.
characters.
And Michelle Lee was MAME.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, it was fabulous.
Okay, we have to wrap up in just a little bit. We kept you over a little bit. I'm so sorry. Your fans are
the
just,
time flew by.
You are a magical storyteller. Whenever you write your memoir, you need to do the audiobook of it.
Yes.
You need to have your own podcast. Like, you have so many beautiful stories, and the fact that you're so positive and joyful about everything and appreciative is such a joy to fans like us that listen to you on a daily basis. We were joking about he'll be in the shower, I'll be doing whatever. Your fans in their respective spaces listen to your albums, your cast recordings all the time, and it means something different to all of us among our many stops on life. And you're a part of that. To know that you're so down to earth in real life and joyful kind of adds to it.
Oh, thank you.
Dear. Okay. We just have to get through these fan questions. You've appeared on stage and screen with a long list of legends. What actor do you think you learned the most from by working with? And we're talking about Angela Lansbury. We're talking about Harold Prince. We're talking about all these big names.
Yeah, nobody can. Everybody's in their own category. The lessons learned are, you can't compare to anything. I don't know. It's the professionalism of everyone.
But even early on, there wasn't that one actor you're like, oh, that's how I should do things, or that's how I should approach rehearsal, or anything.
Yeah, I'm sure I learned from everybody. I mean, honestly, I you know, you can just admire people and see how. Oh gosh, I'm speechless.
Okay, how about working with every kind of director? Hal Prince, Scorsese, sitcom directors. As an actor, what do you want most from your director? What do you not want from your director?
They say that 90% of directing is casting. So the really good directors, I think, are the ones that allow you to whatever you bring to the table to enhance that. And there's a handful, you know. Jerry Gutierrez was one of my favorites. He directed Dinner at 8. And also Geniuses, which was another play I did at Playwrights Horizons. But there's so many. Milos Forman, come on. Marty Scorsese.
I know. I mean, you put these
Sidney
lists
Pollack,
together.
come
I mean,
on.
when you
It was
put this list
crazy.
together,
I know,
doesn't
it's
it seem crazy? You've done this in your time.
In 50 years.
Yeah.
50 years.
What have
yeah.
you done that you haven't? Do you want to do another like big like costume drama like Amadeus where you're like Maggie Smith and hair and gowns?
Or do you want to be in the
do you want to
Avengers?
do like a Marvel movie where you're Annette Bening like teaching the young person how to fight? Like what do you want to do with your career now?
I don't really have any aspirations. I don't. Again, it's really what comes my way. If I stay
speaks to you.
open, but I've also just stay open to life. That it's amazing what you know, God's providence. You know what He brings to you. You know, it's a bounty of plenty.
Who are the Broadway actresses, the divas that you go gaga over? Were you a huge fan of like Stritch or Seldes, or like who were you?
Oh yeah, I loved
be like,
all
I'll
of
go see
them.
whatever they do. The way some people were like, if Christine Ebersole's in it, I'll go see it. Who were you?
The way that we're fanning
yeah.
out, who did you fan out?
For?
Oh, there were so many. Yeah, Angela
And you got to work with her.
You know, Angela, and I worked with Marion Seldes, and I worked with Elaine Stritch, and
Elaine Stritch, is there a story there? Because, again, we've had people that have worked with her, and it's been on either side.
I just loved her so much. I got to see her the day that she left New York.
Wow.
At the Carlisle.
Wow.
And I brought her a rosary because, you know, she grew up Catholic. Her uncle was Cardinal Stritch, and he was in the Archdiocese in Chicago. And I remember she opened the door, and she said to me, "You and I are a lot alike."
And you're like, excuse me?
No, and I said, "That's the problem." Which really made her laugh, you know? But I just loved her so much. She was, again, one of those, I wasn't intimidated by her at all, you know? And she was just one of these, like, irascible, you know, just like, tell it like it is kind of broads, you know?
A broad.
Yeah, she was really a broad. And I just loved her.
What's Christine Ebersole watching on TV? What is it that when you need to listen to music, you press play on?
Well, the first thing that just came to my mind right now was the Eagles, which we're
fun,
we're
yeah.
gonna go see. in New Jersey.
Nice.
Yeah, we're excited about that. We never did something like that. So when they're playing with Steely Dan, so
It's gonna be a sexy
that'll
night.
be
That's
exciting.
date night. Oh,
Yeah,
He would have gave me the wink. Cause like we're putting Big Sally. We're putting a drape over Big Sally.
Oh, big
We're not
salad.
giving you free tips. What TV? What movies are you like? What's your jam?
I really loved White Lotus.
Oh, yes.
The second. White Lotus in season 3.
Yeah.
I'd love, imagine.
Well, come on. Are you kidding? I would do it in a second.
Okay,
Where
well,
is
we're
it
gonna have to
gonna
call
be?
them
Is
for
it
them to
gonna-
call you.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
in-
okay.
Is it-
The season 3 is in
It's in
Thailand.
India. Oh, in Thailand.
And it's so the first one was about
You need to be
class.
on season 3.
The second one's about sex. The third one's about religion, and like it's all about like finding your higher being. Apparently.
Did you hear that? I'm gonna send a few emails from Rob like.
Wow. But, when's the strike going to be over? Who knows?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Gee.
What is your message to a new actor in the field?
I think the most important part about acting is commitment. If you don't have commitment, you don't have anything.
Yeah.
If you're not pretending to be that paralyzed little girl
Yeah.
doing dinner.
If you're doing that half-ass, it's not going to work.
Wow.
And to say yes. You've told us so many times in the
yeah.
show, saying yes got you to the next level. Got you to the next level. Just say yes.
Is that how you choose role? Are you looking at a script being like, can I commit to this 100%? Or is this not? is
And,
this
and
part
also,
not in
do I relate to it?
You did
Yeah.
American Horror Story.
Oh, I love. Oh, yes.
It's like,
the,
that is
the
so-
Queen of Coven.
Oh,
Oh,
honey,
my
I had to get the
God.
garlic out on that one.
That was great.
But for that experience, you must have been a whole different mind shift. We're talking about Guinevere from like,
Getting
American Horror
sliced by
Story.
Jessica
Yeah.
Lange. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that was crazy. I got to work with her. I mean, I got to meet her too. And she played Grey Gardens in the TV movie.
Yes.
Oh my
that's
gosh,
right. That's
And
right.
she told me that
Circle.
she couldn't see me in it.
No. I remember when that movie happened, and all the New York theater gays were like, I'm not even watching Drew Barrymore.
Grey Gardens became this this pop culture phenomenon, and I felt like because like you, Video West is this cute little used to be in West Hollywood.
Yeah.
And that's how I became part of All About Eve, whatever, because you would see the covers of everything, and you'd be like, now we're told what to watch because we're streaming. Here's what's popular.
Yeah,
It's like, well, now I have to go find stuff that I want to watch.
Yeah.
But Grey Gardens was part of that early experience. I was like, what is this? It was like a shawl, and it looked gritty. I'm like, I'm going to rent that, and I'm going to rent All About Eve. Absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
And that's like my whole early thing was the
Oh,
video
we know Video
stores.
West.
Well, Faye Dunaway, your bill is still $868, by the way. That's a true story. Yeah.
Christine, tell us something the fans are going to be really excited that you're singing with Michael Feinstein and Cheyenne.
At Pasadena Pops,
Yeah, what are we
September
doing?
For
9th.
Pasadena Pops, I'm going to be singing 42nd Street.
Oh, yes.
And I'm going to be singing the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be singing The Folks Who Live on the Hill.
Where's that from?
Michael Feinstein would be able to tell you.
Should I text him right now?
Yeah.
Michael.
He's at his mansion, like, yeah.
And the thing that I'm most excited about is that I'm going to be doing Dionne Warwick's orchestration of Alfie.
That is legendary.
That is just that I'm so psyched about.
And you do a lot of concerts, from big concerts to more intimate concerts. What do you love about performing in these concert-type environments?
Sharing. Honestly, that's what it is. It's just sharing. And it's sharing. It's not only sharing what I'm feeling inside, but it's sharing God's gift to me of being able to sing. That was a gift that was given to me. So to glorify that, I share that. And that we all have them. We all have gifts. Yeah. We all have gifts. But it's really about what we share that benefits people.
And what a gift to be, I mean, to have your instrument, as powerful as it is, still when obviously you see some of your peers, some of the people who are the greats that have so much trouble with it, it really is so amazing. Such a gift, truly. Like, to harness your entire
It is.
I think it's
power.
that positive outlook towards everything.
And without training, she's like, I'm not done. I'm not.
No, but I am. I do train with Big Sally.
This
Right,
word
wait,
needs its
so
own
when-
Instagram.
because the listeners are going to want to know. Because if I was a listener, I would need to know. Christine,
Do you
before you,
wanna hear
leave,
it?
all
Yeah.
8. What
Okay.
are they and their names?
And okay, so there's Big Sally is the cockatiel.
Uh-huh.
Then there's we have 2 dachshunds,
Cute.
Millie and Frankfurter, and
From Rocky Horror.
I didn't realize that
Oh,
was
no.
wrong.
Oh, that's what we're like. Oh,
No,
we just named them that. And then there's Lola, the puggle.
Oh.
And then we have 4 cats. Whiskers, that we found when I was doing Grey Gardens, found him under the deck of a house. He was 2 days old. And he did have a sister, Jackie Kittity, the Aristocat, but she disappeared. So we don't have her anymore. And then there's Sylvester, and then there's Maud, who's from Hollywood.
And then there's Mom.
And then there's Maud.
She's from Hollywood. Did I name everybody? Oh, and Guy, and little Guy.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the cats outnumber all the other animals.
The 4 dogs, 3 cats, and a cockatiel.
We talked most about Big Sally.
That's
Yeah.
so cute.
mhm.
Yeah.
But do you want to hear? Let me say what I say to Big Sally.
Yes.
You know, to just give you an idea of how I keep warmed up. How are you doing, little bird? That's good, right?
Does she react?
And she's like, oh, you got to have a gimmick.
No.
She's got to get a cigarette. She's like, what? What, Christine?
No, if I'm far away from Big Sally, I get to do FaceTime with her, with him. Yeah, I do FaceTime. We talk
That's cute.
and we sing. Oh yeah, and I have actually a recording of Big Sally singing counterpoint to Sophie Tucker's "My Yiddish Mama." Do you want me to send it to you?
Yeah. Put
Yeah.
it on your Instagram. Why is your Instagram so, like, we need more. We need these animals. We need you. We need you on Instagram more.
Let me know when Big Sally learns 2 peas in a pod. I want to see it.
Or side by side. For Mitchie Rich, and the fans will really shit themselves. Christine, you have shared so much. You are an interviewer's dream. You are
Thank
a
you.
fan's dream. You're a gay man's dream. You're a straight man's dream, obviously. I cannot thank you for sharing so much with us
Oh,
tonight.
thank you so
It's
much
been
for
a joy.
having me.
Thank
It's
you.
been
Oh, are you
so
kidding?
nice.
I kept texting your PR. I'm like, is she really going to be here? Is she really going to be here? I'm sweating. Did you see the first 5 minutes of this? I was like, psh. I was like, turn on the air. I'm with. Oh. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Go see Christine with Cheyenne Jackson and our friend Michael Feinstein, the Pasadena Pops, on September 9th. Where else do you want fans to find and follow you? Instagram, you're going to have to wait like 2 years.
Well, yeah, I'm not really good about that. But I'll work on it.
Okay. Just do a post with Big Sally.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
We'll share it on the show. Josh, do you have any last question for our amazing guest?
I feel like I've asked it all. I can't imagine what else.
Oh, well, we have plenty more.
Well,
so
I don't. Well, I know we're late on time.
no,
too.
I know. Yeah.
Thank you, Christine.
We'll
It's been
do
such a
another
pleasure.
segment.
Yes. Part 2. We'll bring Michael Feinstein in.
Yeah.
We'll get the booze going. Then we'll really start talking. Have you heard? You've heard his Paul Lynde impression, right?
Oh, it's
Oh,
hilarious.
amazing. Josh, where can people find and follow you?
You can follow me at right there, Josh Ferri. Also, if you like drag and want to follow Broadway drag, it's normally high, and that's it. Thanks. I do a Great Gardens number with Christine Ebersole's music.
Yes. Don't sue him. Okay. That has been an amazing, amazing episode. Thank you so much. It's always a grab bag of fun here every week. You never know who's going to show up. Big thank you to our engineer for today. Dakota Wonder is making his debut on the Rocks. Pretty good. I have a few notes. Also, our social media clip editor, Alexis Mendez. Coming up, we have a celebrity wine tasting. We have Charles Bush coming on. Please like, share, subscribe so we can continue bringing this fabulous programming coming your way for free. Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, stay sexy, and if you drink, stay tipsy. This has been another episode of On the Rocks. Tweet me and slide into my DMs on Twitter and Instagram at On the Rocks On Air. Find everything On the Rocks for free at ontherocksradioshow.com. Subscribe, like, review, and